So about a month ago, I was struck down with a very serious illness, kind of illness I haven't experienced in my adult life. And I had a real epiphany about the breath, how our whole life force comes and goes on the breath, but how everything breathes in and out, all living things. And so this is what connects us. We share the same air. We all breathe. And it is a matter of spirit and soul. But illness is a revelator, and it allowed me some time to reflect and to rest. For quite a while, for maybe a week or two, I couldn't look at screens. I was just too incapacitated to cope with the attention demand. But what I noticed was the return of a sense of inner silence and a sense of the voice of my own higher self, in a way. That deeper wisdom that we all contain. And I realized I'd fallen into that terrible trap that I suspect most of us are in now, of starting my day by switching on my device, looking at emails, perhaps reading a bit of the news, and allowing all those other thought forms, other people's thought forms, to crowd in on my psyche before I'd even really finished my first cup of tea. Now, I was very lucky. I grew up in a time when all of this didn't really exist, when life was very simple. There was very little television, and my childhood world was really one of in-depth storytelling, reading, the imaginal world, the fairy tales, the myths, the fables, and an outdoor life in nature that connected the realms of magic and the imaginal worlds for me. It was much quieter then, there was much less traffic, and there wasn't this constant assault of this torrent of daily information demanding our attention, taking our attention away constantly from the inner silence and from a direct relationship with the natural world as a very sacred, magical, and multidimensional realm. From the earth as a soulful being, from the realms of the gods and goddesses and all the other elemental worlds that we live alongside. Now, a few weeks after this illness came Storm Arwen, and I live on the cliffs very close to the sea, at quite an elevation, and I've honestly never experienced a fury like it. It was pure fury. Perhaps it was the attempt of a body to self-regulate. Perhaps it was trying to bring down its temperature. But what struck me was how this storm arrived on what is also known in our wonderful consumer world as Black Friday, when most people are in that kind of frenzy, that mania of acquisition, of consumerism. Personally, I never shop on Black Friday. Out of principle, I boycott it. I find it really vulgar, and that somewhere deep in all of it, there's something very dark. But as a storyteller, I always look for the myth and the story that matches these things. And there are so many tales and legends to do with dark magic, enchantment, addiction, where we lose control. But the one that strikes me at the moment, and it's a relatively modern story, of course, is one of the great all-time favourites, The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, from the Narnia Chronicles. And there's this wonderful story about how young Lucy finds her way through the back of the wardrobe in the professor's old house where she and her brothers and sister have been sent to stay in the countryside. And she is hiding in the wardrobe one day, playing hide and seek, and she fumbles through all the coats, and the wardrobe's very deep, and suddenly she finds herself touching something really cold and wet. And she steps through, and she enters a whole other world where it is winter. The ground is covered in snow. The trees are dripping with snow. It's a winter world. Of course, we all know that she meets the faun, Mr. Tumnus, goes to his house and has tea with him. When she returns, of course, the others don't believe her. They think she's making it up. There's a time. Time, of course, is one of the great mysteries of the world we live in. It seems as though she went in the wardrobe and came straight back out, but of course she stepped through a portal into another world. So time is different there, and even though she was there for ages, when she comes back, it's the same time here again. I think we can find similarities in when we have our dream world and where we go to in the night, but that's a whole other story. But anyway, so later on in this tale, Edmund, who is the particularly not very nice brother, and who's been ridiculing Lucy about her story, finds his own way, accidentally, into the winter world of Narnia. And he encounters the Queen of Narnia, who is the White Witch. And we already know from Lucy's encounter with the faun that she's evil, that she keeps the world forever in winter, so it is never spring. She turns to stone those who displease her. But she's particularly interested in any sight or sign of humans. And when she spies Edward, as she approaches, she glides along the path in her winter sled, pulled by reindeer and driven by a dwarf. This glistening sled in the glistening white landscape. And she's quite angry when she sees Edmund standing there and asks him who he is. But when she finds out he's human, she invites him to sit in the carriage. And she can see that he's cold. So she starts to seduce him with her magical charms. And she pulls out a magical bottle, and she drops one drop in the snow, and up arises a bejeweled goblet, and he drinks this frothy, creamy drink, and he's instantly warmed through. So now he's starting to feel comfortable, and she's talking to him, and she says, "Are you hungry?" Of course he's hungry. "What do you best like to eat?" she says. "Oh, Turkish delight." And suddenly, again, the drop in the snow, and arises this beautiful box all wrapped in a bow. Pounds of beautiful, delicious Turkish delight. And Edward starts to eat the sweets. And the minute he begins to take the Turkish delight, he falls under her spell, and she has control over him. And he doesn't know that this Turkish delight is so enchanted that if he was allowed to keep eating it non-stop, it would kill him. Of course, he finishes the whole box. He's feeling sick. She's talking to him, and he can't stop shoveling it in his mouth. The rest of the story is for your own reading. But I can't help but see the parallel between this awful relationship we now have with consumerism and materialism that is keeping our world forever in winter, where we've driven the magic and the multidimensional to the edges, where we've even co-opted magic and New Age spirituality as a feel-good thing, it was never about us. It was about our stewardship and our guardianship of this earth as a very sacred being and a very magical place, full of divine enchantment, not the rule of black magic. And I often think about consumerism and how we have all collectively fallen under this spell. And believe me, folks, there are magicians at work, the dark wizards, manipulating the algorithms that allure us, that bewitch us, that enchant us, that almost as though against our own will we have to keep pressing the buy button, buying things that we probably don't need, that certainly don't nourish us, that ultimately take our light. I find that bit very, very disturbing, how it steals our light. And coming out of this period of illness, I can see how this, particularly this year, we've been in lockdown and COVID, there's so much anxiety and fear in the air. And the one thing we can do to make ourselves feel better is buy something. Magic never left this world, but I think that there is a great dark field of dark enchantment at the moment, and we're all caught in this web. So we're like Edmund in the tale, where we simply cannot stop eating the Turkish delight, and not only is it killing us, it is killing our world. So once again, these old stories, they reveal to us so many truths. Like the girl in the story of the girl with the red shoes, who just wants these bejeweled red shoes, and she takes them off the top shelf where she was told not to touch them. She puts them on her feet and they start to dance her. And she dances with these red shoes, but in the end, they won't stop dancing her. She can't put them down, she can't take them off, and she gets thinner and thinner and thinner, and in the end they dance her to death. So it's a great time, I think, to now go into this deepening, beautiful deepening time, which I love so much, this wintering time, because it's a time of rest and reflection. And since I've been ill, I now make sure I start my day and have at least an hour of quiet time before I switch on any devices. And I can only say I am beginning to feel ever so much better. So as we come up to Christmas and we search for gifts for our loved ones, let us just think carefully about where they come from and whether they have soul or not, whether they will bring satisfaction or end up thrown at the back of the cupboard. And maybe we can make something. Maybe the best gift that we can give to both the earth and our loved ones is our love and our kindness, our time. So I wish you a wonderful deepening. I will be recording another video very soon for the winter solstice. I hope you're all well. And I have one last message, which is RTB. Remember to breathe. And I wish you very well for this month.